Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Story Archives. I am your host, Mario Busto, alongside
Zachary Newton, the other host. Welcome back.
We'd like to welcome you all to the first ever SASAs. That's right, the SASAs. Right, Zach? The SASAs.
That's what we're calling it. That's the code name right now.
This is the first ever episode introducing this. We're calling it the Story Archives Stamp of Approval Awards, but we're just going to call it the SASAs for short. It's the first one. And what is it? This episode's going to be all about highlighting the best shows and films that we've watched throughout 2023. A little bit of cheating, late 2022, but whatever. The show's all about giving you guys the best stuff that we've watched. We're going to go through all the stuff we've watched. Then we're going to choose the ones that we liked, that get the stamp of approval. And then we're going to narrow it down to the top 10. I have a top 10 shows. Zach has a top 10 shows and films. I also have a film list. I got some honorable mentions in there, some hot takes. And this is all prepared with love because we are launching this episode on October 8th, 2023, which marks the official 2-year anniversary of Story Archives. The first episode we ever launched was October 8th, 2021, where we began an entire commentary through the entire series of Peaky Blinders, which you can catch on Netflix. And you can catch on our podcast if you type in Peaky Blinders. We are the #1 Peaky Blinders podcast in the world. Right, Zach?
That is correct. We always are. Come on.
Yeah. And so we started 2 years ago and really just grinded for about a year and a half. Didn't see much traction in the audience. Didn't see much traction in viewership until this year, about a year and a half in. Most of you all met us when we podcasted about a little show called Silo on Apple TV. And since then, Story Archives has grown. The Soapbox Network has grown. We're still small and meager, fighting off the titans like Apple and YouTube as they try to ban us to existence. Well, Apple already forgave us, but YouTube is still being a pain in the ass. But nonetheless, we've got some other announcements to announce on October 8th. Today, we didn't want to just launch the episode. In fact, this episode is part of another launch. We launched the newsletter. If you are subscribed to our newsletter, then you'll have seen that you got an email in your inbox this morning telling you about this episode. And in it, we talk a little bit about our story, a little bit about the future of what we want to do here. We also put some shows that we worked on, that sort of thing. And pretty much where to stay in touch with us on all the new things going on at the Soapbox Network. We've also launched our Patreon officially today. One of the things that we learned in the lessons learned when big tech like Apple and YouTube abuses their power and pretty much digitally shuts you down on all platforms is you got to be a little bit more resilient than being able to be shut down from that. Thankfully, we never lost Spotify, which enabled us to continue a communication line with you guys. But we are launching Patreon, and we're doing it strategically at this time because Patreon is allowing a free tier. So that means you guys can follow us on there for free. You don't have to pay anything. And for those of you who love the show and who want to go out of your way and you have the means to do so, we're going to have a payment tier where you pay a little bit a month to help produce the content on the show. But it's not necessary, and we're not begging for it. It's out of the kindness of your own heart. If you want to do that, you make that choice. We always appreciate it. For all of you who already support the show and who have sent us donations in the past, we greatly appreciate you. And we do this, we enjoy doing this to entertain you guys. And we hope you enjoy this episode. In addition to that, we also launched on Rumble. They have a much better track history of respecting freedom of speech, although we didn't get banned for any freedom of speech issues on YouTube. Nonetheless, we feel like we're going to run into less of a potential banning on Rumble. So we have built up the channel. Zach's done a great job of populating the channel with all of our old videos that we posted on YouTube. And please follow us on Twitter. So we're asking for 4 things. Sub to the newsletter. Join us on Patreon just as a hub where you can catch up with any communication from us. Follow us on Twitter and on Rumble, or follow us on X. It's no longer Twitter. So follow us on X, and we'll be posting everything on every single platform there so you can stay up to date in case we run into another banning scenario. Zach, anything you want to add to all of that long housekeeping list?
That was a lot of housekeeping. No, I was just going to say, man, if you asked me 2 years ago if I thought we would have covered as many shows as we have already, I would have said no. I would have laughed, but we've covered a lot and it's been exciting. And hearing that it's only been 2 years, we've already covered all that, makes me really excited for the next 2 years and all of the future shows that we're going to cover. So that's all out there.
Yes, yes. We're sharing just a little bit of what the plans are for the future of Soapbox, but we can't do it without you guys. And the fact that you tune in week to week is an honor. It's humbling that you guys are entertained by the content that we produce. And we hope to entertain you for decades to come until we're in the ground, until we're 10 feet in the ground. Zach, are you choosing cremation or burial?
Oh, that's a good one. I'll probably do cremation because it's a little cheaper, you know. What about you?
I have no idea. No idea. All right. Good call. Let's record the meat. All right. Let's get into this. Also, guys, we have Lupin that we're doing a series of. As you saw, we posted all of our part 1 and part 2 coverage of it. That was one of the first shows we did on Story Archives. And we are excited that part 3 is here. We're dropping episodes every week on that and finishing up Invasion Season 2, which this week, as I record this on September 29th, we'll tell you the date we were recording this on. Invasion's getting good. So I'm hoping that when you hear this episode, it's getting even better. So
I'm glad to hear that because I've yet to watch that latest episode.
This week was the best episode yet. But.
All right. Well, it's coming up this weekend for me.
All right.
Let's go.
So let's organize this show a little bit. We're going to be starting a few different ways, Zach. First,
okay,
we'll just do a list off of all the shows and films we've watched throughout the year. Then we'll narrow it down to the ones that we liked individually. And then we'll have the grand finale of which shows made it to the top 10 of our approvals list. But we have to decide on something right now because we're going to actively iterate on this call as we do this, on this pod as we do this.
Okay.
Right? Are we giving stamps of approval, Story Archive stamp of approvals to every show that we like? Or are we giving them to only in the top 10?
I'm only giving it to those in the top 10 for me. My honorable mentions, of which I have 4 written down. I like them. I don't know if I would give them the stamp of approval.
Okay. All right. We want, one of the goals of this show is, and you'll see it in the newsletter I wrote, this show, we always talked about it. You know, there's an audience of people who will love us out there. Those are our people. Those are the people who are operating on our wavelength. They're like us. We're like you. We are the same in some ways.
Yeah.
In others, maybe not. But then there's the other wavelength of people. Those are the ones who leave the 2 stars and the 1-star reviews who are real pains in the asses. Those are not our people. These recommendations are not for those people. Although I'm sure they will write a negative, nasty review about what I'm saying right now. This is not for them. The show, in part, we choose shows that we like. Notice that we don't cover every show on TV. We only talk about the shows that we feel we want to talk about. We're not going to talk about shows that are going to be a drag to talk about. So every show here that's on the top 10 is worthy of at least mentioning or talking about. And we think maybe for some of you out there, you might like the shows too. As I've gotten lots of messages lately, Zach, as I'm sure you have too, about people who have kept subscriptions on Apple TV Plus that didn't want to. They were not going to keep them.
Yeah.
And until they ran into our podcast with Silo, and then they were like, wait, this streaming network has a bunch of good shows. However, something did backfire on Apple. One of our listeners out there was going to buy an Apple computer and decided to buy an HP as a personal protest against the ban against our channel. So
That's impressive.
Thank you. Honestly, I was so flattered by that statement, and I have a response coming to that person on the pod soon. I'm going to be responding to those emails and sending a personal. Hey, I got a little.
Thank
surprise.
you.
Got a little surprise.
Yeah,
but
I hope you like the HP. Honestly,
yeah, I love HPs. I still got an HP just chilling. I mean, it works like 20 years. It's like 20 years old. You know,
they're built like tanks.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So you want to go first? Or do you want me to go first?
You go first. I'm going to follow your lead on this one.
Okay. If there's any sort of crossover, and we're going to make this show as entertaining as possible. So we're going to try to make this, if we see things that are kind of sucky, we'll try to improve and kind of keep the boat moving here. But let's get into what I watched, and then I'll get into what I liked. Cool?
Okay.
All right. And I can already see that my list, I messed up in some areas, but let's get to what I watched. All right. I'm going to list by network so we can see the how much I've watched in the last, and some of this was 2023. At least most of this was within the last quarter of 2022 and 2023. And when I say this list, I watch a lot of television shows. Okay. Starting with Apple in no particular order. we're gonna go. And some of these may have been even earlier, but whatever. This is the first one ever, so I want to add shows in that I just loved. Okay,
Do it.
although the top 10 is kind of restricted to 2023. All right, for Apple, I watched Ted Lasso season 3. Okay, For All Mankind, The Essex Serpent. Actually, this isn't going to work with me just listing them off. We're going to go with, do you want me to just list them off, or do you want me to just go straight to the liked? Because I'm already bored by just listening to myself list off all these shows. So nobody knows what they're about. So we're not going to do that.
I don't know. Should we just kind of start with the countdown of the top 10 and go into that and move into our honorable mentions? How do you want to do that?
I'm going to go into the things I liked.
Okay.
And then I'll get into the top 10s.
Okay. All right.
So here we go. My top liked. All right. And this is in no particular order. I'm going with Silo on Apple TV. All right. I'm going Ted Lasso, For All Mankind, minus the last season. I have that with a major asterisk there. I put minus the last season.
Yeah.
Drops of God on Apple TV. Foundation, season 2 on Apple TV. Ballers on Netflix with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Outer Banks, guilty pleasure show. The movie Hunger on Netflix. All Quiet on the Western Front. And I'm going to go into each of these, so don't worry, guys. Singles Inferno, another guilty pleasure show, reality Korean show, dating show. They send a bunch of singles to an island and make them date each other.
Okay.
Absolute binge watch. I don't even watch reality show, but that one was damn good. One Piece, I got into probably the most famous anime of all time. I only got through a couple of story arcs there, but enjoyed it. Alice in Borderland, one of my favorite shows that I've watched in the last year.
Okay.
Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, the stop motion.
That was a good one.
That was fantastic. The Pale Blue Eye with Christian Bale on Netflix, based on the Edgar Allan Poe story, I believe. The Bear on Hulu. I've been raving about The Bear. Where it falls on the top 10, you guys will have to find out. Last of Us on HBO. And in particular, I put the pilot. Dairy Girls on Netflix. About some girls in 1990s Ireland in the middle of like the whole I think there was like a UK divide with Ireland at that point.
Okay.
I think it's Ireland. Can you look that up?
Yeah, what is it, Dairy Girls?
Dairy Girls, DERRY. Tetris, the movie on Apple. And Cha Cha Real Smooth, the movie on Apple. I also like the Steph Curry documentary. And Greyhound on there, and Causeway. Those are other ones. All right. Zach, you want to get into your top liked? Do you have a top liked, or do you just have your top 10?
So I just broke mine. I only noted down my top 10 and my honorable mentions, though the ones that you just ran through that I've also watched has been For All Mankind. I started The Essex Serpent. I actually didn't get too far into that one.
Okay.
Outer Banks and the Tetris movie as well. I watched that one actually a few weeks ago.
Okay. All right. Do you want to jump straight into our top 10s?
I think we should do that. We should get into the meat of it here.
Okay, I agree. And I think I might hit everyone with a couple of honorable mentions. I might extend my honorable mentions list.
Okay.
And we'll go from there. All right.
Fair enough.
Do you want to go top 10 years first on shows, or do you want me to go first?
Let's both go. We'll do it at the same time, right?
Okay.
So I'll cover my 10, then you cover your 10th, and then we'll go to the 9th.
The thing is, I have two lists. I have a films list and a show list.
All right. Well, I have one, so I'll do my 10, and then you do both of your 10s.
Okay, sounds good.
Fair enough?
Yep, let's do it.
Okay.
And we'll discuss each one a little bit.
Perfect. So my number 10 in my top 10 is I'm probably going to butcher the name, but it's The Banshees of Inisherin.
Ooh, I forgot about this.
That was a good one. It's not, now some of these movies, some of these shows are not from this year, but I have watched them this year. I actually bought that movie. It's directed by Martin McDonagh, and it's a very good movie. It's kind of like a dark comedy. You got these two lifelong friends over in Ireland. I forget the year that this takes place. It's like in the early 1900s, I believe.
Yeah, it's definitely a more rural time.
Yeah, but it's interesting. I feel like the plot feels like it just came out of left field. Basically, this one friend decides that he no longer wants to be friends with his friend, and really throws out a pretty gruesome consequence of their continuing communication, and it's just very funny. It's slow, so it might be a little difficult to get into. My wife did not like it. I liked it a lot. I'm happy I own it. I'll probably watch it again at some point, but that's my number 10.
If we ever stop being friends, would you cut off your finger and throw it at my door?
No. No, I would not. I like my fingers I need them.
All right. Yeah, that movie stars Colin Farrell and also stars Brendan Gleeson, two of my favorite actors. Great movie. Definitely not for everyone. It's a slow one. You also get a great performance out of Barry Keoghan. I think I'm pronouncing his name correctly. And just overall, great movie. Slow watch, but kind of a quirky, dark comedy. At times a little confusing, some of the meanings that they're trying to make in it. But it's a thought-provoking film too, in certain ways, about friendship and the nature of friendship, and this man who's having kind of like his midlife crisis, so to speak, about how he hasn't achieved anything of any sort of, that he's never going to be remembered. That's kind of like the gist of Brendan Gleeson's character's concerns. He wants to do something, and so he feels like he's wasting his life with this kind of, I feel like Colin Farrell's character is slightly autistic in a way in the movie, like where he doesn't take social cues very well.
No, he doesn't seem the brightest to begin with either. Like, he doesn't seem like he was educated very well.
Yeah, it's one of those things where he has definitely like some sort of social disorder where he's not, what he does in order to try to get his friend back. I mean, he has a pet donkey, for goodness sake. And let me tell you, when a certain thing happens to the donkey, I mean, all hell breaks loose. So, all right. My 10. All right. And this is definitely the way the Sasso Award should go. This is much better.
Cool.
On my film list, I have Pale Blue Eye. And Pale Blue Eye stars Christian Bale. That's the only actor I can think of off the top of my head who's in that film. And it's a great kind of dark detective mystery film. It's great for like a fall winter watch. It's about it's about actually a murder that takes place on a campus, on a military, I think West Point. And he's investigating it, and there's twists and turns and all sorts of surprises in there. And he actually meets a young Edgar Allan Poe. Am I confused about that? I think he meets Edgar Allan Poe in the movie, and he has this affinity towards deciphering, clues that are left behind, right?
Mm-hmm.
What did you think? Did you ever watch The Pale Blue Eye?
I have not, but it is on my list to watch.
I'm surprised.
So I'm happy to hear that. I mean, there's a lot of things that I've put on my list that I want to watch. It's just a matter of trying to find the time to get to it, but it's definitely up there. It's something I want to watch. Maybe I'll try and get it in during the month of October.
Okay.
Might be nice.
All right, my other number 10. This is my top 10 TV shows now. I went with Ballers on Netflix, and it was a soft 10. It's kind of stipulated as my number 10 because I watched it in 2023. It stars Dwayne The Rock Johnson. It stars John David Washington, who's in BlacKkKlansman. He's in the movie The Creator that's coming out soon. He's in Tenet. He kind of gets his big start in Ballers, from what I can see. He plays Ricky Jarrett. Dwayne The Rock Johnson plays a retired Hall of Fame linebacker / I think defensive end or linebacker. And he is transitioning towards pretty much his life after sports, where he's bankrupt. Nobody knows he's bankrupt, but he's a sports agent. And just his rise in the world of being a sports agent and his business endeavors. And at first it feels like a worse version of Entourage, which is one of my favorite shows that I watched about a star actor. But then after that, it kind of picks up and it gets very what's the word I'm looking for? Like, it gets more dramatic. Like, there's really key moments with The Rock that he really showcases his acting ability.
Okay.
So it's on Netflix. You can catch all 5 seasons on there if anyone's interested on it. Zach, I gotta say, side note, there's the way the light is reflecting or the way you're moving distracted me so badly. I thought there was a giant roach inside of your record player back there. And if anybody's watching the video of this, my eyes just started drifting because I thought at the corner, if you move a certain way, it looks like a creature is crawling inside of your record player. Like, see that? The way you're moving there?
Interesting.
Yeah, it looks like a giant creature's inside of it. Anyways.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. I have not seen that show either, but I will have to pick it up at some point in the near future.
All right, number 9.
My number 9 is a movie from 2019.
Okay.
And it's not a movie that I thought I would actually like. I actually didn't even hear about this until you told me about the movie. The name of the movie is Parasite. It's it's directed by, I'll probably butcher the name, Bong Joon-ho.
Yes.
It's a very interesting movie. I wrote down a little bit of this. Basically, you have a man who is persuaded by a wealthy friend to impersonate a tutor for a wealthy teenager. He gets the job in this house, and he basically tries to get his family different jobs in the house, and they kind of like sneak in and
they become parasites on this wealthy.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what happens. And you know, the movie, I believe it's all in Japanese. Is that right?
No, Korean.
Korean. Okay, apologies. It's all in Korean, but it is a very interesting watch. It kind of had me on the edge of my seat. It's a drama thriller. Very, very interesting. I watched it late at night. But it had me kind of looking under my bed, just saying. But I really like the movie. I've never heard of the director. I don't know of any others, any other movies or shows that this guy's worked on. But
he has a few.
Parasite is great.
Memories of a Murder. I haven't watched all of his films yet, but that was on my list. I went through kind of like a Criterion collection situation where I wanted to watch. I wanted to watch different countries, like their best examples of their cinema. So I was like going through the Hong Kong movies, like the Wong Kar-wai films. Like I was going through a bunch of them, and just it's like several of the classic directors. I was kind of going through a deep dive. I didn't really finish everything, but it's still something that I have in my mind to do. But Parasite's one of the best movies I've watched in the last 10 years, period. Like if I had watched that within the last year, it would have been on there too. It deserved the Oscar big time. In my opinion, that film ushered in, because that movie came out in 2021, I believe, or
2019.
2019. Wow, so that far back.
Yeah.
When did Squid Game come out? Can you look that up?
Oh yeah,
I think it was 2020. Might have been 2019 as well.
2021.
Okay,
September
2021.
17th.
So I think Parasite, personally, a lot of people haven't watched foreign films, and in his Oscar speech, he talks about if people can get over that 1-inch barrier on the bottom of your screen, a whole world of cinema will open up to you. That
I heard that, yeah,
and it's so true. And it opened up. If you look at Netflix now, the amount of Korean content that's on there is incredible. Like there's just so much in there, so much Japanese content. It's opened up the world towards foreign films, and I think it's shown people like there's a lot of depth here, and a lot of countries have their own unique way of telling stories, which is very interesting. But that's a great number 9. It's so good that I'm surprised it's number 9, I gotta say. So
I'm a sucker for other types of movies, but
whatever's 8 and up like is a high bar. So all right, my number 9 on the film list is a film called Hunger, and I digress. I will admit, not I digress. I haven't watched as many films as TV shows this year. I almost never watch as many films as TV shows. But Hunger came out on Netflix, I think around April, and it's directed by, I'm going to butcher this name, Siri Monkolsiri. Anyways, just look up the film Hunger, and you can figure out pronunciations and everything after, because I know I just butchered that. And it follows this character named Aoi. She's working in her family's business, making stir noodles and all that, and she's recruited by like a chef from the most famous restaurant in Thailand. And so she joins the team, and it's kind of like this, it's kind of like almost like a study, like about the, kind of similar to Parasite. It's funny that we both have these number 9.
Okay.
It's a study of like high class, middle class, lower class, class warfare, upward mobility, with the purpose of life. Like what is really the purpose, and is it even worth it to kind of kill yourself the way the head chef tries to like truly make everything about success. It's all about hunger, and so it's very dark. It's not like it's not a beautiful portrayal of food. In fact, it's actually the most beautiful portrayal of cuisine and food and all of that in the movie is when she's working at her humble noodle shop with her family. Working at the high-end restaurant, nothing really looks very appetizing. And so it's kind of like the story of her rise to fame and then, the lessons learned along the way. I personally enjoyed it a lot.
Okay. I put that down on my list to look into.
If you liked Parasite, you'll probably like it. But it's more extreme. It's not on Parasite's level for sure. But number 9 on the show's list, I had Outer Banks.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And once again, it might be a soft 9 because Outer Banks is a questionable quality show. Sometimes it's great. A lot of times it's fillery. Like the concept of the show I love. These kind of down out of luck, kids in poverty who are treasure hunting. Like I never knew it was about that. I thought it was about a bunch of kids, like rich kids who were complaining about their parents all the time. And so I never watched it for years because of that. Until I found out that it's not about that at all. It's about this kid, John B., who his dad goes missing and or dies, really, SC. And he's looking for a treasure. Things unfold and he starts to look for treasure. And it is good. And Zach, I know you've watched that one. So I know we have a plan to do an Outer Banks, like a judge-a-thon where we kind of just go through all the 3 seasons and do our thing.
Yeah, Outer Banks was good. I watched it as well. I did not put that on my list because I watched it a little while ago, though I think the latest season I watched within the year because I think it came out this year. But anyways, I had said 2 things when you went to watch it. 1, the show is very addictive, and 2, be prepared to yell at the TV every episode. And I want to say I think you did that.
I did both.
Yeah.
And then the other one was Madeline Klein or... what was the name of the 2 girls in the show? Kiara and Maddie?
Man, it has been a minute since I've watched it. I'm not
Sarah.
Good names. Sarah. There you go. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. I'm more of a Kiara guy. But anyways. Anyway.
All right.
Not a bad show. Zach, you don't have to answer. You can plead the 5th. It's all right.
Okay.
Not a bad one. And it was nice to be able to binge through 3 seasons. Are you a Pogue or a Kook? Is the question.
That's a good question. Pogues for life, man.
Pogues for life? All right, Pogues for life.
Yeah.
All right. What's your number 8, Zach?
All right, my number 8. So my number 10 and number 9 were both films. I pivoted here to TV for a couple selections in this ranking.
Okay.
My number 8 position goes to a TV show called Black Mirror.
Oh.
Which is, interesting.
Okay.
It is created by Charlie Brooker. I don't know much else that he's done that I've liked, though he did create the movie, the Bandersnatch movie, which is another Black Mirror sort of show. And that was a very interesting movie. I liked it. It was interactive, first of all.
Yeah,
which was
pick
really
your
cool.
adventure type of movie. Yeah.
It was one of the best that I've ever experienced. It's not the first I've experienced, but it was the best that I've experienced, where it actually felt like you could go down this unique path and not kind of like end at the same result. So I did like that from the movie, but I really like the TV show. It's this very dark sci-fi TV show. Every episode is a different story that's being told. Season 6 is the latest season that's out right now. I will say season 5 lost me a bit. I was not a fan of season 5 at all. Season 6 is bringing it back for me. I have not finished it yet. I have watched the first 3 episodes. I do really like it. The thing that I love about the show that I always tell everybody is that so many, at least in the earlier seasons for me, so many of the things that they cover in the show feels so plausible in today's world that is what makes the show terrifying to me. It's not necessarily that everything is so bad. I don't think it's any good situations, but like it takes even what could be good in terms of technology, and it really shows you the negatives and the bad sides, the evil sides of it that could come out. And it's wild.
Black Mirror is the kind of show that when it gets you good, it makes you want to go take a shower. With how dark it can be sometimes. But it's no doubt compelling. I haven't caught up on probably the last 2 seasons before season 6. But I did watch it. It is one of those that you can't binge watch, in my opinion. It's one of those where you watch like a couple, every, one a day type of thing. At least for me, my personal preference. But season 6 was incredible from the little that we did watch. I think we watched 3 episodes of season 6.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we do have to go back and finish that. But all right. Number 8 for me. I'm telling you, the films, I got to say, the films probably were weak for me this year.
Okay.
In terms of like, I don't know if these would make it on a year that I really go hard on watching films. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But these are all movies I enjoyed. They all get the stamp of approval. They get the Story Archive stamp of approval. I'm going with Causeway, starring Jennifer Lawrence. And I always blank on his name, but I love him as an actor. Give me a second. Brian, what's his name?
I'm not sure. I haven't seen it. I know that much.
Brian Tyree Henry. I was going to say Brian Tyree Henry. Brian Tyree Henry. Yeah, it stars a wounded soldier who suffers a brain injury, which is Jennifer Lawrence, and she comes back from fighting in Afghanistan to New Orleans. And she's adjusting to life back home. And I just found it like a simple kind of movie about somebody trying to get reacclimated to civilian life. And I thought her and Brian Tyree Henry had a great chemistry on camera. Like, I thought it was a great duo. And he's somebody who has a traumatic story that occurred to him, like a traumatic experience that happened to him in the movie as well. And they really kind of just bond over, he's a mechanic and he takes in her car and she just takes a job as a pool cleaner. It's like she has kind of like a troubled home life with her mom that she comes to live back with. And it's a good movie. It's a deep, quick watch, but nonetheless, it's a good one. Jennifer Lawrence is great in it. I will say that.
Nice.
Number 8 on the shows. This might be controversial. This is pure enjoyment. All right. I put Ted Lasso season 3.
Interesting.
At 8. Okay. Ted Lasso is the number 1 show on Apple. It is, I'm not going to say it's my favorite show on Apple, but it's definitely got to be top 3. It's fantastic. Everyone who watches it, you come away a better person. It's very friendly, positive. I will say season 3 felt like a drag for like the first half of the season because it kind of got away from the Ted Lasso optimism of seasons 1 and 2. And so it took a while. Like, it was the latter half of the season that really redeemed it for me personally.
Okay.
And nonetheless, it's got to make the list. It has to make the list because it's freaking Ted Lasso. I'm not sure there's going to be another season of Ted Lasso.
I don't think there is. I think it's over. I think this was the last season of Ted Lasso. Well, I watched it too. I didn't think to put it on my list, but I should put it in my honorable mentions. I don't know if it's going to be that high for me. Okay. I find it. Did you say you liked the season 3 the most, or was that the least?
No. Seasons 1 and 2 are definitely personally good. More enjoyable.
I heard you wrong then, because I thought you were saying you enjoyed season 3 the most, and I was like, that was the one I didn't enjoy the most.
No,
seasons 1 and 2 were great.
Not at all.
I really liked the show. It started to trail off towards the end, but I did like the ending.
I liked the ending, and certain episodes were so damn good that it definitely makes the all-timers, But the season as a whole, not good enough to go past the rank. I do have one very controversial pick in my top 10. But I'm talking, this was just, I think my criteria for the top 10 shows was which ones was I burning through, like that I was just going like clicking the next episode immediately, Yeah. And there's no judgment on this list. I got everything on this list. There's about every genre of TV on this list. So, all right, that was my number 8. What is number 7, Zachary?
All right. So number 7 for me is also a TV show.
Okay.
It is Chernobyl. Created by Craig Mazin.
Okay, yeah, that's a great one.
It follows the story in April 1986 of the explosion at Chernobyl, which is a nuclear power plant. And it kind of just covers the way that situation was dealt with it is a very interesting show. It's one of the ones where, I like the way that you're kind of picking the TV shows that you like the most. Like if you sat there and you just kept hitting play the next one, play the next one, play the next one.
That's how
that was one where it's like, man, every episode I wanted to watch the next one because I wanted to see how it would unfold. And it's a mini series. It's a short series. I want to say it was like 7 episodes, but man, it was so well made. I liked it. I liked the way that they kind of went about telling the story. And also, if you love Jared Harris, he is in that as well. Jared Harris is from Mad Men, Foundation, a bunch of other shows out there.
Harry Seldon, shout out.
Yeah, there you go. So that's my number 7. Loved it.
Okay, I got you. My number 7s I chose for my film was the Steph Curry documentary, Underrated.
Okay.
I'm a huge basketball fan. If you don't know this by now on the show, I'm a huge sports fan. My 2 favorite sports are basketball and football. Not necessarily in that order currently, but it switches. Those are my top 2. And Steph Curry is one of the GOATs. He's one of the greatest of all time. I've been a fan of him since he played at Davidson in college. Unique player, as what's his name? Dick Vitale would say he called him a diaper dandy when he played as a freshman. I mean, he was like he's shooting the ball from 35 out. He was shooting threes from so deep that nobody had ever seen anything like this before. But he was scrawny, compared to some of the other players. Skinny, not necessarily short, but skinny. But just a baller, somebody who had a killer instinct. You could see, if you knew basketball, you could see this kid was a killer. Anyways, gets drafted. Wins 3 rings. I think he has 4 now, possibly. Yeah, I think he has 4. And overall, I love the documentary. It goes a bit into his family life, his upbringing, his high school journey, middle school. Pretty much his dad was an NBA player, trained him up. And just the level of dedication that is required to truly be great. You see that with him. And he's, basketball has the founding fathers of basketball. You got like the people who really elevated the game. You got Kareem, you got Wilt, you got Magic, Larry, you got, Michael Jordan, Kobe, Shaq, LeBron. Steph Curry is on that list of people who's elevating the game. And he's transformed the game. If you go to any court, when he first was coming up and like really taking preeminence in the game, you'd go to the court and you see kids just chucking up. Kids had no business chucking up threes, just launching 3-pointers from all over the court, from deep, from half court. I mean, and that's the Steph Curry effect, because he plays the game in a way that you feel is attainable, because he's not LeBron. He's not a super 6'8" athletic freak who's, tomahawking the ball into the rim from the free throw line. So it's like, it's a different kind of attainability. But anyways, there's no doubt. I enjoyed the hell out of that documentary. I think I watched it twice. So that was number 7 on the film list.
Okay, nice.
I also wanted to make a quick note about Chernobyl that you mentioned. For those listening, that is the one show Zach has watched this year that he has hassled me about to watch the most. I think every time he watched an episode of Chernobyl, he was telling me, you gotta watch this show. Have you seen Chernobyl? You haven't watched Chernobyl? It's amazing. If you haven't seen Chernobyl, you gotta watch this. It is amazing. Anyways, so now it's continuing to be added to the list. Although I got another show on my list that may be one that we commentate on soon. Okay. Number 7 on the TV shows might be a little controversial. In fact, I'm looking at it and I feel like it needs to be a little higher. But we're leaving it a 7 for now. I'm going Foundation Season 2.
Okay.
I thought it was a step up from Season 1.
Yeah.
I did think some of the storylines dragged a bit. I thought the storylines of Harry, Gale, and Salvor dragged a little. I don't want to give any spoilers. I don't think this is the show for the spoilers of what goes on in the show. Nonetheless, fantastic season of television. I'm interested to see where it goes from here to Season 3. I'm assuming it'll get greenlit for Season 3. It's definitely Apple's biggest jump into the sci-fi genre. It's the most beautiful sci-fi show you'll have ever seen. I promise you out there, they spent the money. and it shows. The acting is great. Lee Pace is great. Jared Harris is great. Terrence Mann is great. I mean, all these different actors that are on the show absolutely killed it. And season 2 was a step up to all of that. So
it is a great show. Season 2 is definitely better than season 1, though. Season 1 was pretty good as well.
Yeah.
I'll be surprised if that thing doesn't get greenlit for season 3. I'll be sad if it doesn't get greenlit for season 3.
By the way, before we name numbers 3, 2, and 1, we'll do honorable mentions.
Okay, cool.
Okay. What is number 6, Zach?
My number 6. Okay, so my number 6 is Dune, directed by Denis Villeneuve. It was a great movie. It was. I've never read the book, or any of the books. I've seen video games, but I've never played the video games. You raved about the movie. I think you were reading the book as well.
I read it.
Yeah. I watched it. I like it. The one thing I don't like about it is how long I have to wait to watch the next movie.
What are you talking about? It's coming out this month in October.
I know, but it feels like forever. I want to like pick up and, I'm so used to watching like one season of a show and, getting the next season the next year and, switching to a movie. Man, the wait just feels so much longer, but it's a really good sci-fi show. I think you've mentioned in the past that Dune was kind of like a response to Foundation, which was kind of a response from Isaac Asimov.
I don't know this like the Bible, but like it's a response to the worldview that the Foundation sets out. So it's kind of a direct response in that. And in terms of that, the Foundation is not so heavy on the individual, right? It's very much based on over 1,000 years, while Dune is very much based on the Atreides, and Paul Atreides and his family and all those. But Dune is amazing. Denis Villeneuve is incredible. Hans Zimmer does the score. Timothy Chalamet is the next DiCaprio. You got Oscar Isaac in there. You got all sorts of incredible actors. You got Rebecca Ferguson, who's in Silo, who's in there playing Paul's mother, Timothy Chalamet's mother. Jason Momoa. It's stacked. They got Josh Brolin. It's ridiculously stacked, the whole cast. You got Kellen Skarsgård in there as the evil guy. It's just insanely good.
It's a great movie. You're right. It is completely stacked.
I'm shocked I haven't rewatched it now that we're talking about it. I'm shocked I haven't rewatched it.
I bought it. I don't know what was going on. There was like a sale that Apple TV was doing, and I bought it for, I want to say I bought it for like $5. It was crazy. That's wild deal.
That's a steal.
So good. I will go back and watch it as well. But Dennis has directed other movies like Sicario, Arrival, Blade Runner.
Have you never seen Prisoners?
Which I haven't watched Blade Runner. Prisoners? No, I don't think I've seen that.
Oh my gosh. That's my favorite one of his movies.
Okay, well, it's going on my list.
Hugh Jackman, Jake Gyllenhaal.
Okay.
Jake Gyllenhaal plays a detective who's looking for a missing child. Hugh Jackman plays the father of the missing child. It's probably Hugh Jackman's best performance ever, besides his performance in Les Mis, playing Jean Valjean. That is definitely his best performance ever. And he got robbed for not winning the Oscar that year. And they got robbed for not winning Best Movie. And I don't even like musicals. But Dennis Hooper killed that shit. I mean, like, they were singing in ear. All they had was a piano in their ear. They were singing live on set. That was insane. Anne Hathaway killed. I mean, I digress. But damn it, Les Mis did not get its due credit. Anyways, that was number 6, right?
Yes, that was number 6.
Holy crap. What is 5 through 1 for you? Wow. All right. Mine feels soft compared to your top 10 so far. I got Cha Cha Real Smooth on Apple TV as my number 6 film. It's a movie about pretty much a guy. It's directed by Cooper Raiff, and he plays the main character, Andrew, in it. And he falls in love with an older woman named Dakota, who's not a single mother, but she's engaged to someone. She has a special needs child, and they fall in love with each other pretty much. And it's just kind of that story of him who's just come back from college. He has a crap job. He's trying to make money. It's a very heartfelt movie, and it's sort of rom-com-y, sappy, moody type of movie. But if you're in the mood for those types, you might like it.
All right, I might take a look at it. I've seen it pop up on my TV every now and then, but maybe I'll bump it to the list.
All right, number 6. This is a left fielder out there for those who don't watch anime, but if you haven't guessed it by now, it is One Piece. And honestly, I probably should put it at number 5. But because One Piece has some episodes that it feels like a drag to get through in terms, it's like an anime. So sometimes it'll have like a filler episode, although there's very far little. But this is the number 1 anime in the world. It's the longest running. They got over 1,000 episodes. I'm not even close to finishing it. Okay. I got through a few of the arcs. That's how they go through them in anime. You know, I went through the Alabasta arc. I went through a couple of other arcs. It's good. This is the kind of, I think it's called a shonen. I think that's what it's called.
Okay.
And it's very much a similar theme with all of these. Of the Harry Potter ilk, okay? You got parents that he's never met before, okay? He's got a special powers that he can't quite explain, and that kind of thing. And he's got a cast of pirates. They're about pirates that are looking for the One Piece, this heralded famous treasure that the most famous pirate left behind. And every once in a while, I get in the mood for one of those. You know, I love a good anime. I love Naruto. It's probably my favorite ever. Jujutsu Kaisen, Demon Slayer, Death Note, Attack on Titan. All those. One Piece is the grail of, I guess, the anime world. So I've been trying to get through it. So it's number 6 because there are some moments that are so truly epic. And if you're open-minded enough to watch it, you'll like it.
You know, it's funny because I feel like you've been trying to get me to watch anime for quite a while, and I'm really not an anime fan. I think that the one anime that I've actually liked is, if you can even call it that, I guess, is Avatar, The Last Airbender. You know, that too. I love that, but I've never been a big fan. This will probably, get me. I don't know. I'll have a nice review me or something.
I think I'm gonna be the one who gets lambasted here. To be honest.
I don't know. Like I've never been a fan of Naruto.
5. So,
well, we'll see what that is. I've never been a fan of Naruto, never been a fan of like Dragon Ball Z and all of those things. Now, I've also never really watched a ton of them, so I can't say like I've really given it a chance. I've seen some here and there, but there's one that I started watching, and unfortunately, it's no longer on Netflix, so I didn't even catch the last episode of the season, which I'm a little disappointed on. It's The Promised Neverland, which I think you told me about.
I got you into that. Yeah.
Yeah.
How good was that?
I like it. It's been one of the few animes that I've been able to get into. It felt short. It was another one of those shows where I kept watching it. It's not on my honorable mentions. It's not on my top 10. It's not something that I even was able to finish because by the time I started it was like one day where it was left on Netflix, and I was like, it's now or never. So I've got to try and find a way to finish at least the first season.
I think you can catch it on HBO now, possibly. That's a damn good one. You just reminded me I haven't seen season 2. There's a lot of shows I haven't been able to watch season 2 of. Promised Neverland was amazing. I'll literally, sometimes if a pilot's so good, I will stand up and clap.
Yeah.
Let's go. I'll clap. And then Promised Neverland is that good. I love anime. I think if I were to get you into anime, it would probably be Death Note. I have a feeling that would be the one that's up your alley. But
yeah.
Anyways, let's keep it moving.
All right. Number 5 is next.
Yes.
Yeah. Is that on me?
On you.
All right. Well, we knew there was going to be some overlap in our top 10s. We do watch, apparently not a lot of the same shows, but there are some things that we do watch that are the same. And number 5 for me is Foundation, and I will second your vote here for season 2. Season 2 was much better than season 1. I'm not going to say anything else about it. It's a great show. It's on Apple TV Plus. Go watch it. Listen to our review if you haven't already.
We've got about
cross your fingers for season 3.
We've got about 30 episodes of Foundation for y'all whenever you're ready to follow that journey. And that's what we like to do on this channel. We like to give you a companion podcast to discuss with us the shows, Anyways, just for those of you who don't know by now out there, we did not review each other's lists before this. All we provided to each other was an outline of how this episode was going to go. And that's how we're doing this. We're live doing this with y'all. Number 5 on my film list. I had the story of Tetris with Taron Egerton. Okay, great actor. He's in Blackbird on Apple TV. that's an honorable mention for me is Blackbird.
Blackbird was good.
A guy who's kind of a drug dealer, money runner type who gets sent to prison, but he's so charismatic that they want to use him to get a confession out of a serial killer that they have never been able to pin down. It's a good show. It didn't get me in all the ways that other shows like that have been able to kind of like reel me in, but nonetheless, it's an honorable mention. I think I've watched that one within the last year as well. Creepy ass character who plays a serial killer.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
Good show. Terrifying character.
But Tetris, incredible story behind Tetris. Apparently coded by a Russian. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it had to be export, like it pretty much had to be, it's an export out of Russia pretty much. Yeah. And the story of trying to get it on Nintendo and securing the rights to the game is insane. You wouldn't believe it. Like if you watch the movie Tetris, you'll be blown away at the story of the most famous video game of all time. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely bonkers. Like I honestly recommend it to you. You would love it. As someone who likes history, you would like it a lot.
I've watched it. I liked it.
Oh, you did? Okay, all right.
I did. Yeah, I watched it. At this point, it's probably been like a month and a half ago, but it was a really good movie. I was surprised by the story of it, how complicated it was, how confusing it was, how much it makes me never want to visit Russia ever. Good movie, man.
I would like to visit Russia personally. Like
not after watching that movie. There's other things that I would want to go visit Russia for.
It's not gonna be the top of my list because I don't want to run into an issue, but it's beautiful. Like the architecture in some areas is beautiful. Other areas it's like pure it looks like pure communism. But anyways, let's move on. I just in hearing that I know what your number one is. I will not. I definitely know what your number one is. Anyways, my top 4 films I would say are bangers. Actually, top 5 because Tetris is damn good.
Tetris is really good.
Number 5, the one I'm gonna get absolutely made fun of for, but I burned through it. I had never experienced something like a show that was this much of a just pure nonsense television. Curious. And because there's a cultural divide with the show, I don't know how much of it is reality TV. I don't know how much of it is real. I think most of it's bullcrap, personally. But season 1 of this show was so good that it's the best pure guilty pleasure television that you'll watch. And it's Singles Inferno. Netflix. I watched both seasons. I burned through that crap faster than I care to admit. It's, what am I going to say? One Piece, there was times where I didn't want to turn the channel and watch another episode of One Piece. Should Foundation be number 5? Probably. But Singles Inferno, I burned through that like in maybe 2 weeks. That was a great reality. I can't wait for season 3. When you're there, and the whole concept of the show is you put like a bunch of single young Koreans on there. Like they're all anywhere from like 18 to 35. The Koreans on the island. They put them all on this island. And they got to choose between Paradise or Inferno. Inferno's the island. I mean, they're not living terribly, but they're not living great either. They're eating like the same crap every day, whatever.
Yeah.
But then you get to go to Paradise. But the only way you go to Paradise is if you both choose each other blindly. So you don't know. So pretty much everyone puts their name in a box. And if you choose the girl you want to go with and she chooses you, then you both go to Paradise. But if you chose a girl and she chose another guy, and the guy chose her, now she's going to the Paradise with another guy. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that. And so everyone goes and has their little, it's like The Bachelor, I guess. I don't really watch The Bachelor, although my mom just got into Golden Bachelor. I went and visited them yesterday. And it's just it's like watching a horror movie. You know how you watch a horror movie with people and you just talk the whole time and like make fun of the people and the decisions they make on the screen?
Yeah, don't go into the dark room.
That's what these shows are. It's like pure, like, what are they doing? Why would they do this? Like, look at this girl. Anyways, all right.
You've told me about this show before. I've never seen it either. But
yeah, I should be a judge. I should be a judge of this. They should bring me in as the American judge of the show. I'll go over there. Or no, I won't be. I won't be a contestant on that show.
Oh, that's hilarious.
All right.
That is hilarious. All right. Number 4. So number 4 for me is another one that I think we all know of. It's Silo, created by Graham Yost, based off of the book series Wool, Shift, and Dust from Hugh Howey. It's on Apple TV Plus. We've actually covered every episode of it. It is a really good show.
Amazing
I would
show.
put it above Foundation.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like there are episodes of Foundation where I'm just like, all right, like it feels filler. It's really slow.
Yeah.
Overall, still a good show. It's number 5 on my list. But Silo's a notch above. I think Silo is a much more accessible show.
100%. Easier to get into.
It's so much easier to get into. My wife liked it as well, which is awesome. And you know, it's this fun mystery. It's a science fiction show. Like it's got everything. I loved it.
Amazing show. Most of the people listening to this episode probably got into our podcast because of Silo. You'll hear a little bit about that story of why we chose Silo in the newsletter if you subscribe to it. But it's not next on my list. So what are we on, 4?
We are on 4, yes.
Okay. Number 4 on my film list, I have a movie, a Korean movie.
Okay.
Called Past Lives. And it's a movie came out this year. So it's a romance, also kind of on the, you know, emotional, sadder side type of movie. It's about these two adults who were like childhood lovers. You know, they were like they loved each other when they were kids, but then the girl moved over to the States and he remained in South Korea the rest of his life. They reconnect years later, but it's all about their past lives and goes back and forth. And then it all builds up to him visiting her in New York. But it's a good movie. I like those kinds, you know, I'm all over the map. I love, you know, a good drama. I love good sci-fi, fantasy, adventure, all that. But then I also love a good old romantic type of journey. And it's a great love story. They got great chemistry on screen. And this movie, every year, there's maybe like 2 or 3 movies that come from a different country. Lately, it's been South Korea. And it picks up a bunch of social media buzz and it pops up on ads and stuff like that. And this one was one of them that popped up and it was good. It's good enough to be number 4.
Nice. I see it's an A24 movie as well. They've got a lot of good stuff.
Yeah. Number 4 on my TV shows. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Alice in Borderland. I watched season 1 and 2. It's similar to Squid Game. It's about these young Japanese, this is crew of young Japanese kids, not kids, they're like in their 20s. All right. They get transported into a world that's abandoned. Okay, but in this world, there's games, and in order to survive, you have to win the games. So they're constantly going through these games, like these do or die games with each other. And the rules are diabolical, but there's epic characters. It's based on a manga, which is interesting. The show had been on my Netflix list for years, and I never just turned it on. There are moments that are a little bit, not cheesy, but there's like moments that are like, oh, this is straight out of an anime, like a straight out of a manga. But you can see that it was tasteful in the way that they tried to do it. But nonetheless, I loved it. I burned through the episodes. The season finale of the second season was so good that it's one of my favorite episodes of television, maybe ever.
Okay. Interesting. You told me about this before, and I don't know why I've always had it in my head that this was an anime, but it sounds interesting. I'm looking at it right now. It looks pretty interesting. Not super high on my list just because of the type of show, but I'll try and get to it. I started Squid Game and I did like, I like it. I haven't finished it though. I haven't finished it.
Okay.
All right.
We're on number 3. So before we do number 3, let's hit everybody with the honorable mentions. Do you want to go first with what your honorable mentions are? I would say our honorable mentions also get the stamp of approval.
Yeah. Why not? Do you want me to just run through all of mine? I got 5 because you reminded me of one that I threw on here.
We'll talk about each one briefly.
Okay. All right. I'm going to start out.
It's a long episode. This will be a long one.
This is a long one, but this is a fun one.
Yes, hell yeah.
And man, like I've watched more TV than I thought I did.
Yeah.
But okay. number 5, which I actually didn't have on my list of honorable mentions. I forgot about it until you had said something a little earlier in the podcast, and it reminded me of it, triggered in my head. It's a show called Dark, and it's on Netflix. It's this science fiction like mystery show. The whole show is in German. I don't fluently speak German, but I do like to listen to it in German and read the subtitles, because the audio of the show is just great. Like, it was, one of the things that I picked up on when I first started watching it. It just sounded really good. It was mixed really well, but it's a very intriguing mystery sci-fi. It is dark. It's
it would
a little
be a
creepy.
great story archive show.
It would be like it goes deep, and like there are some things that are it's a little complicated to follow, but I really enjoyed it. I would recommend going to watch it. It's not on my top 10, but it is in my honorable mentions because you reminded me of it. Thank you. But that's my number 5.
We're gonna get somebody email us saying for us to do Dark for sure. It's a great show. I haven't actually caught up with it, so there's a lot of Dark I still need to watch. I think I watched like the first season. Is that what else on your honorable mention list, or are we going one by one?
I'll go through all of mine. So next up on my honorable mentions, this is number 4. It's another TV show. It's called You. It's also
I haven't watched it.
Yeah, it's also on Netflix. The first 2 or I can't remember which season they're on right now. It's been a little bit since I've seen the show. The first 2 seasons were really good.
Your wife got you into this one.
We both kind of picked up on that one. It was interesting. So the first 2 seasons, like I was saying, are really good. Once you get into season 3, for me, it really started to fall off. I haven't even finished the last couple of seasons, but the first 2 started out really strong. It has Penn Badgley, I believe is how you pronounce his name in it.
Gossip Girl.
Gossip Girl. That's right. I know that one because of my wife. Which was a good show as well. It was kind of bingey.
It is a bingey.
But
show,
You is number 4 on my list.
Okay.
I liked it. It's this nice little creepy guy that just watches you. Speaking of watching, number 3 on my list is The Watcher.
Wow. Okay.
Also a Netflix show.
Mm-hmm.
There's 1 season of it. I don't know if they're going to make another season. I imagine they could, but if I remember correctly, I want to say it's based on a true story.
Mm-hmm.
But you get this married couple that moves into this home, and it's their dream home, and they start receiving threatening letters from somebody or something signed The Watcher, and it's this dark horror like mystery show as they're trying to figure out who the hell the Watcher is and why they're watching them.
I haven't watched
that was an interesting one. It's good. It's one that I wanted to watch each episode.
Just to see what was happening next.
Because I'm like, I wanted to get through it because I'm like, how do I say this without making it sound bad? Some shows end the episode in a way that's just like so annoying. Like they leave just a little too much open. And you're like, come on, like give me just a little bit more. So I feel like we had some closure in this episode.
Yeah.
And that was one where they didn't do that for me. Like it was a little too open at the end of the episode. All in all though, it was good. It was an interesting story.
Next up.
All right. Number 2 on my list, still another TV show. And I haven't watched the latest season. I've got to go get my Hulu for that because I don't have Hulu. But it is Handmaid's Tale.
Hold on, but you watched that this year?
I watched it last year.
You know how many people
all but the latest season is one I have not watched.
I have so many people who have wanted me to watch Handmaid's Tale. Handmaiden or Handmaids?
Handmaid's Tale.
Peggy Olson?
Yep, that is right.
I gotta watch it.
It's good. It's got Elizabeth Moss in it, who is Peggy Olson, yes, from
Mad
Men. It also has, I'm gonna butcher the name, but Yvonne Strahovski.
No idea who that is.
She's been in a few other shows that I've watched. I mean, without going to look, I can't remember the names of all of them. But
I think it's a pretty familiar show for people. Handmaid's Tale by this point.
It's like I will say like it's it's a dark show. Like it really, so many of the things that I pick, man, like I'm looking at my list and I'm like, they're all like horrific. They're so bad.
You know what I see on my list? I see a definite pattern between when I watch a dark show and the stuff I watch right after. Like right after Alice in Borderland, which is a dark show, I definitely went through Singles Inferno. So what's better to go through after a dark show than a reality show about people who are just trying to find love? Let's watch this trashy TV that like is not deep at all, and to kind of cleanse my mind from the stuff I just saw on Alice in Borderland. All right, next up.
Well, it is dark. It is a good show. I would watch it, but if you're kind of squeamish about things, I mean, there's basically a bunch of women living as concubines in this
sweet
theocratic dictatorship.
What?
It's great. Yeah, love it. Great show. Totally something to watch with the kids. Not really. Okay, number one. I was just kidding. Number one on my honorable mentions is a movie I had not ever heard of in my life. I don't even remember how I came across it, but I ended up buying it and I watched it. I liked it a lot. It's from Justin Kurzel, and it is called The True History of the Kelly Gang. It has Russell Crowe in it, amongst a few other people.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the...
What's it about? I have never heard of it before.
So it basically follows this Australian bushranger who has a gang. His name is Ned Kelly, and he's fleeing the authorities. But it's set back in 1870, and you kind of like see this character grow up. The gang is a little underwhelming in my opinion, but it was interesting. It's not often that I see.
I love good gang film. So
it's not often that I see a gang show from another country, but it also has Nicholas Hoult, has Charlie Hunnam in it. It's really good.
They just got the whole Australian platoon on this movie. Interesting.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of people on this list.
Okay. All right. Is that it for your honorable mentions?
That is it for my honorable mentions.
Okay. My honorable mentions. I got a few, and then I'm going to rapid fire some others.
Okay.
I got Derry Girls. It's an underrated comedy about these girls in Ireland in high school, and it's freaking hilarious. The only reason it's not maybe in the top 10 is because I haven't finished season 1 yet. But it's funny as hell. There's a dynamic with the grandpa always making fun of the son-in-law that is fantastic. It's just hilarious. The old guy who plays the grandpa is he plays a fierce swordsman in Game of Thrones, which is hilarious. Anyways, but he's not funny at all in Game of Thrones. It's pretty great. Then I put down The Essex Serpent. I'm gonna list off a few shows here now, and then I'll get into the other ones.
Okay.
The Essex Serpent has Tom Hiddleston, Claire Danes. Just fantastic show. Mystery, dark mystery. These two are just incredible. Frank Delane's in it. Just fantastic acting all around. Fantastic writing. It's probably one of Apple's best originals. It's maybe not for everyone, but it's a heavy drama, and it's great. And these two are just magnetic on screen. Some other ones I'll list off as honorable mentions. Echo 3, about a Navy SEAL team that goes to save one of the Navy SEAL's sisters / wife. Not the sister and his wife, but
yeah,
she's married to one of the SEALs, and one of the SEALs is the brother of the girl. Luke Evans is in it, does a great job. It fizzles at certain points. It gets a little annoying in certain areas, but nonetheless good. Mosquito Coast. Great show. I'll leave it at that. Season 1 was better than I haven't finished season 2, but it's good.
Okay.
For All Mankind. Great show. Fades off in certain areas, storylines here and there. It gets the honorable mention. Hijack with Idris Elba. We did a podcast series on it. It's about Idris Elba, who
I forgot about that.
plays Sam Nelson. He's on a plane that gets hijacked, and he is a corporate negotiator. So he pretty much tries to negotiate his way to safety with everyone else on the plane. And now to my list of honorable mentions here. The last 3 that I have.
Okay.
Or the last 2, actually. I put Vinland Saga Season 2. It's an anime based upon the Vikings conquering era. I don't know what year that would be, but it's the era where the Vikings were coming over, and England wasn't named England yet. It was named, what was it called? Essex before? What was it called before? I won't get lost in that. But Vinland Saga Season 2, not my favorite as Vinland Saga Season 1. Season 1 is one of the greatest seasons of anything I've ever watched. Season 2 is a slow burn. It's all about character development. It follows the character of Thorfinn, who was sold into slavery, and he's working for his freedom on a farm, and he meets people, and you just get into their journeys. It's a slow, heavy character drama, but there's moments of payoff that are really emotional and very heart-wrenching, and it's good. It does what other shows can't do because of the time they take to tell the story. Last on the honorable mentions, and the only reason that this show is not on the top 10, because it would be a top 3 show or maybe top 4, okay, is because it's so damn old. And I didn't watch it close enough to make this list, but it's Sopranos. I had never watched Sopranos before. Everyone out there who's listening to this show is probably going to say, this is blasphemy. I can't believe I'm subscribed to a show discussing TV shows and films that hasn't watched Sopranos. When Sopranos came out, I was like 7. So I couldn't watch Sopranos. You've seen Sopranos. You can't give that to a 7-year-old. Anyways, James Gandolfini, rest in peace. One of the greatest performances of all time as Tony Soprano. He carries the show. I think it's underrated how much he carries the show. Okay, it's pretty much it's a family comedy and drama in a way. It's pretty much, imagine a guy who has a complicated family life, works a 9 to 5, except his 9 to 5 is being a local boss of a local mafia. So it's just incredible. A cast of just great actors. You got Paulie Peanuts or Walnuts, whatever they call him, and just altogether incredible. You got Steve Buscemi, who's on the show. There's a bunch of great moments, and it's definitely an all-time classic. And the reason it's honorable mention, I have to put it on there, is because of what it represents and the era of modern television that it ushered in. Tony Soprano, the character of Tony Soprano, paved the way for the anti-hero character, the Walter Whites, the Don Drapers, those types of characters. It wasn't big before this, and just, man, incredible. I would recommend it to everybody. Now let's get into our top 3, Zach.
Okay, well, I do have to say, because you mentioned Don there. Matthew Weiner is one of the writers for Sopranos, and he was also
episodes,
the creator for Mad Men. So
that's a good trivia.
Yeah. All right. Number 3 in my top 10. So my final 3 here.
I know 2 of your top 3 for sure.
Are all movies.
I know 2 of them for sure.
And they all follow
I know
very similar.
I know all 3 of them for sure.
They all follow a very similar genre.
Yeah. Let's get on with it. Want me to say them for you?
No. So number 3 was directed by Edward Berger, and it is All Quiet on the Western Front.
Well, I will say right now before you finish, that is also my number 3 on my films of the year. Are
you serious?
Yes.
That is hilarious.
Yes, it is.
I loved that movie. It was great. The whole thing is in German as well. That's how I watched it. At least I don't know if you watched it that way, if you switched it over to English.
I'll say this for those who haven't watched it. It's about a German battalion. It's about a group of German young kids who enlist to fight in the war. They're fired up. You have to imagine that they are receiving the Nazi propaganda and thinking that they're fighting for a righteous cause in lots of ways. The movie doesn't really show. I don't believe they show any sort of concentration camps or oppression of Jews and gypsies and all sorts of other type people who were persecuted in the Holocaust. So they don't ever see that. Okay, but what the movie hammers home is the just absolute savagery of war, the savagery of Nazi Germany, and the shameless, not shame, the senseless violence and deaths that did not need to occur, especially at the tail end of the war that I had no idea about. And the movie, in my opinion, got robbed in terms of how powerful it was to me. I thought it was definitely an Oscar-worthy movie.
Yeah.
And I thought it should have won over Everything Everywhere All at Once, in my opinion.
Same.
It was great. I there's no other way around it, but it's just powerful. It's one of those movies that you think about for days after. And the way the movie opens is a perspective of war I had never considered. It opens up with a fox in the forest and the birds and all that. And you think about it, what do animals think when a war's going on around them? When you're just hearing like shellings and bombs and all this stuff, and you're an animal, like just the perspective of that is, the movie's not about that, obviously, but to open it up like that was interesting. The cinematography is beautiful. The acting was incredible.
Acting was incredible. It was made extremely well. It really reeled me in. You follow this young group of kids, that enlist in the war, like you mentioned. And what I didn't know is that it was, first of all, it's an anti-war film based on a book from 1929, a novel from 1929 by Erich Maria Remarque, and it wasn't the first or the second film adaptation of that book. It was the third. There was one made in 1930 and there was another one made in 1979. I have not seen either of those two. I actually found that out while I was, preparing some of my notes for this episode. So I might go back and try and watch those two as well, just to kind of see how well it pairs up with this movie, which was from 2022. Great movie. Go watch it.
Okay. My number 3, I don't have to say my film one because that was my number 3 on the film side. Number 3 of the TV shows of the year for me.
Okay.
Is Silo. Last year when we were doing the podcast, one of the strategies that we were thinking about in trying to grow the pod was to try to find shows that were discussion friendly and shows that wouldn't have a lot of coverage for people who want to hear more about theories and stuff like that. We wanted to go in a sci-fi type of route, and it just ticked all the boxes when I read that synopsis of what it was about and the world of it. And I want to read the books. I wasn't able to stay up to my desire of reading the books with the show, but it was almost better that way, to kind of be blind when watching the show and not have any expectations. And it's just incredible. I can't wait for season 2. To me, it's probably what the top 3 grail of shows on Apple is Ted Lasso, Severance, and Silo. I'd have to say are the top 3.
Severance is a really good one as well. Silo is great. One of my coworkers doesn't have Apple TV Plus, but I was telling him about the show, and I told him, like, he was like, that sounds interesting. I'm like, yeah, it's on Apple TV Plus. He's like, I don't have that. And I'm like, well, it's based on a book series. He loves reading more than watching shows anyways, but I'm like, yeah, it's based on a book series, We'll Shift Dust by Hugh Howey. He's like, okay. He goes and he buys the book, and he's like constantly sending me messages updating. Like, he plowed through all 3 of those books so quick. It was ridiculous. He was like, this was like one of the best, books that he's read in a while. He reads a lot. Like, it's amazing. I wish I could read as much as he does. But anyways, yeah, definitely a good show.
So that's number 3 on my TV show list. Now, on to number 2 of your list.
All right. So number 2, like I mentioned, is also another film. It follows a similar genre of war. In fact, it follows the same war, not so much the same battle, but the same war. And it is a movie directed by Sam Mendes called 1917.
Oh, that's not fair.
It is a movie. It was made in 2019.
Yeah.
But man, it is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's just incredible. And the fact that the entire movie is like a single shot.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Roger Deakins,
one camera.
Yeah.
You hit go. It's a freaking masterpiece.
It's a work of art.
The coordination. It is beautiful. That's my number 2.
I'd put that over your number 1, 100%. in my opinion. But we'll
Okay, all
let
right.
bygones be bygones. But
Yeah.
All right. Number 2. That was your number 2, right?
That was my number
Okay.
2.
Number 2 for me also follows, I think, the same war, but not the same way. This movie took 14 years to make. In my opinion, I take it back. I don't think All Quiet on the Western Front should have won Best Picture. I think this film should have won Best Picture. And it's Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. And the reason we say Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio is because it's not like the original Pinocchio. It's way better. And it's fantastic. And the behind the scenes of the absolute arduous detail and craftsmanship that it took to create this film is nothing short of just an absolute feat. There's absolutely no way that it should not have won Best Picture in some capacity. It's incredible. And I raved about it to you. You watched it shortly after and kind of walked away with the same impression.
Mm-hmm.
Albeit it didn't make your top 10, but
no, it didn't make my top. But it was really well made.
Yeah.
Like I will say, it was great.
I will say, just incredible all around. A little bit darker than the original Pinocchio, so maybe not with the kids that you watch this one, but it's so good.
Yeah. It's definitely a tad darker.
My list is more current than yours, so
A little bit. I don't watch as much as you do, so I had to dig a little deeper on some of mine.
you're catching up on a backlog of old. But it's kind of like I'm jealous of the fact that you got to watch 1917 this year, because when I watched that, although I did get one perk ahead of you, I got to watch it in theaters.
I did also watch it in theaters. By the way,
Did it re-release?
Did what?
Did it re-release? That's how you saw it?
No, I saw it in theaters when it came out, but I've seen it recently.
Oh, okay. So you're putting
Yes.
it in your. Okay, got you.
I loved it. I love it.
All right. Number 2 on my TV show list was
Okay.
one that I watched recently. A very pleasant surprise. Everyone who's listened to our shows has reached out and who's actually watched it has said they love it. It's called Drops of God. It's a fantastic series on Apple TV Plus. I don't think it's an Apple TV Plus original. I could be wrong though. It's about a girl who has a rocky relationship with her father who passes away, and she's left to compete against somebody else for his private wine collection inheritance. She competes against one of her father's former students, who's played by Tomohisa Yamashita, who also happens to be in Alice in Borderland season 2, I believe. And it's kind of a funny crossover. When I saw him, I was like, man, this guy, hell of an actor. Great series. It's in French, Japanese, and English at times. Funny enough, and everyone who watched it probably maybe doesn't know this, also based on a manga. I had no idea.
Yeah.
And it's based on a manga, and it's fantastic. It's definitely, had I had number 1, have what I had, if number 1 wasn't the best show I've watched in a long time, it's arguable Drops of God could easily be number 1 on my list too. So,
Okay.
anyways, highly recommend
Awesome.
it. I think you would like Drops of God as well. So
I've started the first episode very recently, and I'm liking it so far. So I've got to continue with it. Just got to stick with it.
all right,
All right.
number 1, and we have the same number 1 on the film list. Should we say it?
I would
Should we say it at
imagine
the same?
so.
Should we say it at the same time? Let's count it down.
Sure, let's count it down.
We'll say it in. Are we saying it on 1 or are we saying it on like after?
Say it on
one?
0 because you got to say 1.
Okay, all right. 3,
3, 2,
1.
1.
Oppenheimer.
Fucking
It's
amazing
just- yeah,
movie.
yeah.
I love it, man. Directed by Christopher Nolan, starring Cillian Murphy and Robert Downey Jr. I think those are the 2 primary
I think it's
actors that
a
we get in
fitting
there.
number 1 too, because we have it's a 2-year anniversary of the launch of Story Archives, and the first
right.
show we did had Cillian Murphy as the lead, as Tommy Shelby. And
Yep.
here we are, Oppenheimer, Cillian Murphy, and he's made his way to number 1. It's
Yeah.
And by the way, did you hear the news? Christopher Nolan is set to write and direct at least 2 Bond movies.
No, I did not hear that. That's pretty cool.
I don't know if that's BS, but I did read it, and I think that the source was pretty reputable. So that would be incredible. I don't think Cillian's out of the running to play Bond, but Oppenheimer, incredible. Robert Downey Jr. perhaps steals the show in his role.
He does a great job.
but just incredible. The soundtrack's beautiful. The cinematography is beautiful. The relevance of a movie like this and the topic, considering the wars that are going on right now, and how fragile life is with the power that we have with these nuclear weapons, because the nuclear weapon that he developed, the atom bomb, is not even close to the power of the weapons that we have today. And it's horrifying to think about it. Just the scene with him and Einstein at the pond, and when the conversation is revealed as to what they were discussing, and all of that is just so fascinating. And the fact that I haven't watched it a second time yet is kind of clawing at the back of my head.
I can't believe you haven't watched it a second time yet. I've literally been dying. The only reason I haven't watched it a second time is because, I had a baby like a few days after I watched it the first time.
Inexcusable.
And I might even go this weekend to watch it. Like, it is so good. I was so lucky to watch it in the IMAX down in Fort Lauderdale, where you've got like that.
Oh, you watched it at
really
AutoNation IMAX?
Yeah, I watched. That was my first experience with it, and my God, man, like it was beautiful. Like, the movie gives you chills. You're right. The soundtrack is amazing. The cinematography is amazing. The entire thing shot on film. Did you know they actually had to invent black and white IMAX film for this movie?
No idea. I had no
They
idea.
did, because there's never been black and white IMAX film before. It's always been in color. So they had to create that from scratch just for the film, for one of the ways that they depict a certain storyline in the film.
What was it again? The reason for making that black and white?
The story, there's two perspectives in the story, and I don't think this is giving anything away, but you follow Cillian Murphy's character, who's Oppenheimer, and then you follow Robert Downey Jr.'s character, who is Louis Strauss. And anything in black and white is from the perspective of Louis Strauss. Anything on color is from the perspective of Oppenheimer. And that's the way that they kind of like use the black and white versus color to just kind of like show you the difference in perspectives, because there are some things where you see the same event from two different perspectives as well. And it was a very interesting way to kind of see that told. I liked it. It was tasteful.
And perhaps like also maybe it's speaking to the fact that Louis Strauss is very much seeing things in black and white.
Yes.
Ones and zeros, and Oppenheimer's very much seeing things in totality,
Yeah, absolutely. Oppenheimer seems to have difficulties even making decisions. Like he's like a very calculated human being.
Yeah.
He likes to think about things, which makes sense for what he is.
Yeah. All right. My number one show of the year thus far. Okay. And it's probably not going to be surpassed.
Okay.
Is The Bear on Hulu.
Okay.
Okay. The show, you have to understand. You've already seen on my list here, I've got at least three shows and movies having to do with the culinary chef world. I got Hunger. I have Drops of God, which is all about wine and the quality of wine and sommelier, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
The Bear is straight out of like one of my favorites of all time, which is Anthony Bourdain's No Reservations, Kitchen Confidential, the book. It's the rock star chef type of thing, loaded with good actors. Okay. The main character's name's Carmine. He works at what was a Philly, almost like a Philly steak shop. Okay. That was in his family. It was his brother's. Okay. Who's played by, I don't want to ruin all these things if you haven't watched The Bear. I kind of want to do a damn series on The Bear because I feel like rewatching it. Okay. It's so good. It's fast paced. The episodes are short. Cinematography looks beautiful. The color looks great. Okay. The chemistry, the actors, everything is the storytelling of each individual character. You care about all of the characters. There's never a moment where it's focused on a character that you're like, I don't care about this person. Why are we focusing so much time here? It's just absolutely a masterpiece. Like it's just that good. All right. So it's number one on the list. It ain't getting surpassed this year because it's on the rank. It's like at the level of Mad Men, the Mad Men's, the Breaking Bads, the Game of Thrones. It's at the level of those in my mind. So The Bear gets the ultimate story archive stamp of approval and the crown jewel of the top of the show list, at least mine.
Good job, the bear. Listen, I'll watch it when I get Hulu to finish Handmaid's Tale.
Yes, I may steal that login from you, so I can watch Handmaid's Tale too.
Do it.
All right. I think this was a successful Sasa showcase, right?
This was, yeah. We've got to create some like awards or something, you know, some nice visuals to go with this.
Create some little trophies and send them to each person involved in these, and they're just gonna be like, "What WTF? Like, what the hell is this?"
Yeah. We're gonna send this to Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like this is gonna be like on his mantle.
Yeah.
Right?
You know, who needs an Oscar when you can have a Sasa? Anyways,
That's right.
we want to do these maybe quarterly or maybe biannually. We don't know yet, but we want to do something where we're kind of giving you guys the best of what we're watching, so you can have some ideas. If you had, you know, your notes app open or a pen and paper, you could have had you have enough shows and movies in the list that we gave you today to get you through the rest of the year, hands down. We got some gems in there, and we hope you enjoy them. If you got a favorite top 10 list, email us at contact@soapbox.house. Also, let us know what you think about our lists, and let us know how you enjoyed this episode. For everything else, Zach, to your outro.
Before I get to the outro, there's one thing that I gotta say because I just realized it, which is kind of funny because it's literally been sitting here staring me in the face the entire time. I've been having a little bit of whiskey while we've been recording this episode, and it's funny that this is the 2-year anniversary of when we started this, and we started with Peaky Blinders because right now I am drinking the Bushmills Peaky Blinders edition Irish whiskey.
Did you do this on purpose?
I did not. I really did not. I have a nice, very high proof bourbon back there, and you know it hits you pretty quick. And I'm like, you know, I need something a little bit different, so I switched to my Bushmills because man, I love Irish whiskey.
Irish.
And I just realized that I had bought the Shelby Company Limited edition,
you know,
of Bushmills.
I believe in serendipity. I believe in fate. I believe that, you know, nothing is a mistake. I believe everything happens for a reason. Mm-hmm. And I think that's just the cherry on top of the episode of all these things coming together. When I was writing the newsletter today and I was thinking about what we were going to do with this episode, I said, should we release this tomorrow? I mean, tomorrow's technically like national podcast, whatever holiday thing it is. But then I looked and I was like, wait a minute, when did we first release? Because I knew it was around fall that we released our first episode of Story Archives. And I looked back and it was October 8th. And I was like, look at all these things perfectly coinciding with October 8th. Patreon opens up a free tier for everybody. So if nobody wants to pay, they can still follow us and at least stay in the loop with what we're doing. Yep. We can drop the newsletter. We got Lupin coming out October 5th. A perfect show to carry into where we already have our series that we did for part 1 and part 2. And yeah, everything's just coming together at the perfect time. So yeah, man, it's been a pleasure. We thank you all who've enjoyed our show, and we hope you stay tuned for the future of shows that we cover and know that you were with us at the first Sasa Awards.
Yeah. Well, thank you for listening to this episode of Story Archives, an episode that I don't think we have a title for. I guess we can call it the Sasa Awards or what we're watching, but we'll finalize that later. Thank you for listening to this episode of Story Archives. You can find this podcast anywhere you can find podcasts, Apple, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. You can visit our website at soapbox.house, email us at contact@soapbox.house. You can follow us on Rumble. By the time you're listening to this, Patreon. Follow us on X at soapboxhouse. And we do have a couple links in the description below. Want to sign up for our newsletter? We hope to see you there. We're sending our first one out at the same time that this releases, so you might miss that email, but you'll get the next one that we do send out. And we also have a link in the description below to fill out a form, where we're just collecting information as we continue to build the network.
Thank you all for tuning in. Until next time, peace out.